Okay, so imagine this. You're at your computer, and all of a sudden your mouse starts moving on its own. It's clicking around, opening programs, even typing, and it's all thanks to AI.
Wild, right?
That's what we're diving into today. Anthropic just made this huge announcement about Claude, the AI that can use a computer just like a person can.
Yeah, it's honestly remarkable. We've spent years building all these special tools and environments for AI, but now we're actually seeing AI learn to use the same tools that we use every single day.
Totally. And we've got two announcements from Anthropic to unpack here, and there are a ton of crazy details. So first off, what can this new Claude actually do on a computer?
So basically, anything you could tell another person to do on a computer step by step, Claude can probably do it too. Could think like moving the mouse, clicking, typing, navigating between different apps, things like that.
I read that they've trained Claude to count pixels to make sure it clicks in the right spot.
Yeah.
That just seems wild to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's a super clever solution. And it kind of shows how Anthropic approached this whole challenge. They basically taught Claude to see and understand the layout of a computer screen.
But they didn't just give Claude free reign of the internet, did they?
Definitely not.
Mm.
During training, Claude didn't have direct access to the internet. They did that for safety reasons to make sure they could control what it learned. But even with those limitations, companies like Sonnet and Canva are already using Claude for really complex tasks with tons of steps.
And Replit is using Claude to test out apps as they're being built.
Yeah.
Which is just blow my mind. All these different companies with totally different needs, and Claude can adapt to all of them.
That's exactly what makes this so groundbreaking. It's not limited to one specific job or one industry.
Yeah.
It could change the game for project management, graphic design, software development, you name it.
It really makes you wonder what's next.
Right.
But before we get carried away with all the amazing possibilities, let's talk about the big question that's probably on everyone's mind. If AI can use our computers, what's stopping it from being used for bad stuff?
It's a really important question, and to Anthropic's credit, they're super upfront about the risks. They actually have this whole system called AI safety levels, and even with all these new skills, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is still rated at level 2.
Okay, so that means...
According to them, it doesn't pose any major catastrophic risks.
Okay, that is somewhat reassuring. But I know they did mention some specific things that could go wrong, like prompt injection. To be honest, that one sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, can you imagine you're giving Claude instructions and someone sneaks in a hidden command, like a secret message within those instructions?
Yeah.
That's basically what prompt injection is.
So it's like tricking Claude into doing something it shouldn't?
Exactly.
And that's especially concerning now that we're talking about AI actually interacting with our computers.
Right. And since Claude can analyze screenshots from computers that are connected to the internet, that opens up a whole new avenue for these kinds of attacks. But Anthropic knows about this risk, and they're working hard to figure out how to prevent it.
So they're trying to stay one step ahead of the bad guys, so to speak.
Pretty much.
But what about people intentionally misusing it? I mean, with elections coming up, you can bet someone out there is going to try to use this technology for, let's just say, less than ethical purposes.
Yeah, Anthropic knows that's a real possibility, and they've put in place some safeguards. They're always monitoring what Claude's doing, and they're watching out for anything that looks like it could interfere with elections.
Okay.
And they've also made sure that Claude can't do things like posting on social media, registering websites, or interacting with government websites.
So they're basically setting boundaries to keep Claude in check.
That's a good way to put it. It's a balancing act between giving Claude these amazing capabilities and making sure it's used responsibly.
It makes sense, but let's be realistic. Even with all these safeguards in place, Claude isn't perfect. It's still learning, and there are definitely some things it struggles with.
Absolutely. We're still in the early stages of this technology. Claude's computer skills are pretty amazing, but they're not flawless. For example, anything that needs perfect timing, like dragging and dropping or zooming in and out, can still be a challenge.
I think I read that that's because Claude sees the screen by taking a bunch of screenshots instead of watching a live video.
Yeah.
So if something happens really fast, it might miss it.
Exactly. Like those little pop-up notifications that disappear after a couple of seconds, Claude might not even see those. And it's actually led to some pretty funny stories from the researchers.
Oh, you got to tell me about those. I love a good AI mishap.
Well, in one demo, they were having Claude record what it was doing on the screen, and somehow it just accidentally stopped the recording in the middle of everything.
Oops.
And then another time it was supposed to be working on something, and it just suddenly started browsing photos of Yellowstone National Park.
Like it just needed a break.
I guess so.
That's hilarious. But even with these little hiccups, the fact that we're even having this conversation is mind-blowing. We're talking about AI that's using the same tools we use. not just tools that were built specifically for them.
Yeah, it's a huge shift. It opens up so many new possibilities.
Hmm.
So even though Claude might not be writing the next great novel or designing award-winning websites just yet,
It definitely feels like we're on the verge of something incredible. But where does all of this lead? What does the future hold for AI that can use computers like we do? We'll get into that right after this.
yeah, it really feels like we've crossed some kind of line. Like we've gone from teaching AI to fit into our world to AI adapting to our world, learning to use our tools.
And like you were saying before, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. I mean, if Claude can already do all this stuff in Asana and Canva, what's next?
We'll think about all the things we do on computers every day.
Yeah.
Analyzing information, doing research, creating content.
Yeah.
Those are all areas where Claude could really shine as this technology gets better.
So you're saying we could see Claude helping scientists analyze data, journalists researching stories, or even marketers creating campaigns.
Exactly. And it's not just about taking over those tasks. It's about AI and humans working together. Imagine a researcher working with Claude side by side to sift through tons of data and find patterns that a human might miss.
That's wild. It's like having an AI research assistant. Okay, but let's get even crazier. What about more creative stuff? Could Claude help write a screenplay or compose music?
It might sound like science fiction, but remember just a few years ago, the idea of AI writing a news article or generating computer code seemed impossible. Now it's becoming normal. So who knows what the future holds?
It's like the early days of the internet. We had no idea what was coming. But now look at us. So as Claude gets better at using computers, will we start to design our software differently? Will we have to make things more AI friendly?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's inevitable. We might see a shift towards interfaces that are more intuitive for both humans and AI, with clearer instructions and more visual cues,
Hmm.
kind of like designing a website that's accessible to both sighted and visually impaired users.
So AI could actually influence the evolution of our digital world. It's not just AI adapting to us, it's us adapting to AI as well.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. And that brings us back to why responsible development is so important. As AI becomes more a part of our lives, we have to make sure it's being used ethically and for the right reasons.
And that means having these open and honest conversations about the risks and challenges. We can't just ignore them and hope for the best.
Absolutely. We need to address these concerns head on, get input from different perspectives, and make sure that we're developing and using this technology in a way that aligns with our values.
So as we enter this new era with AI learning to use the tools we've created, it's a mix of excitement and caution, right?
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
We should be excited about the potential for positive change, but also aware of the potential downsides.
It's like exploring uncharted territory. We don't know exactly what we'll find, but we know it's going to be a big deal. But what does all of this mean for the average person using a computer every day?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway is that the line between human and artificial intelligence is getting blurrier. We're moving into a world where AI isn't just a tool we use. It's more like a collaborator, a partner in everything we do on our computers.
And that partnership could change everything from how we work to how we learn to how we create. It's a future that's both exhilarating and a little bit scary.
It is. And that's why it's so important for everyone to be a part of this conversation. We need to think critically about the implications to there, ask the tough questions, and make sure that AI is used to help people, not to control them.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the amazing technical stuff to the ethical challenges. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought-provoking question to think about. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this whole world of computer using AI, what's the one big question you think people should be thinking about?
Well, we've talked a lot about AI learning to use our tools, but what if it ends up teaching us to use them better too?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, what if by watching how AI interacts with computers, we actually discover new shortcuts, new approaches, new ways of thinking that we never even considered before?
It's like AI could become this mirror reflecting back to us, not just what we're good at, but also where we could improve, and maybe even showing us possibilities that we never even imagined.
Exactly. We might find that AI tackles problems in a totally different way than we would, and those differences could lead to all sorts of breakthroughs in different fields.
It's like having a fresh set of eyes looking at old problems and finding new solutions.
And that's what makes this such an exciting time. We're literally seeing a new era of computing being born, an era where humans and AI work together and learn from each other.
It's a future full of potential, but also one that comes with a lot of responsibility. We
Yeah.
need to make sure that this incredibly powerful technology is used ethically and for the good of everyone.
We all have a part to play in shaping that future. It's not just up to the scientists and engineers. It's up to all of us to be part of these conversations, to ask tough questions, and to make sure that AI is a force for good in the world.
Well, that's our deep dive into the world of computer using AI. We've explored all the amazing things Anthropic's Claude can do, talked about the potential benefits and risks, and even had a few laughs along the way.
We hope this has sparked your curiosity and given you some things to think about. And as this technology continues to develop, we'll be here to keep you updated and in the loop.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of AI.